Go ahead. Good morning, everybody. Okay. Welcome to today's session, and I'll be hosting you again throughout for the 2-hour class for FAC1502. My name is Puti, and I need to welcome everybody to this session. Open both of them. I'm not sure what the question is. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, it's okay. Okay, can you go ahead? I'll just open the other one as well. Then I'll just switch password. So I'll do there we go. Thank you. Okay, it's on now. Yeah, okay, just keep going. All right, good morning once again. Today we're going to do, I've designed a question based on the trade receivables control account and the trade payables control account and a little bit of a multiple choice. I think we've got about 10 to 12 questions on the multiple choice. Okay, so I'm gonna ask you guys to unmute yourself so that you can communicate with me based on the questions that I'll be doing. Right. Please unmute yourself. Is this one? Yeah, that's fine. I just click too far. Can everybody hear me? My page is open now for the questions that we'll be doing today. There we go. Please unmute yourself. Hello. Quite a few of you have unmuted themselves. Please do unmute yourself. Oh, that's you and okay, that's fine. Right, let's carry on. And I hope you guys are fresh for today. Because I'd like to believe that yesterday we worked so hard. So it was I believe it was a good start for this revision course. So, as you know that if you've got a question, you're more than welcome to actually can give me that kind of a question. And I will respond immediately to you if I do have an appropriate answer that you guys are looking for. All right. And as I've explained already that today I've designed you a question based on the trade receivables control account and the trade payables control account and a little bit of the notes. Okay. Shall we carry forward? In the meantime, I'm gonna start with the multiple choice question, and then we're gonna move to the datas, and then we're gonna move to we're gonna end off things with the creditors, trade payables control account. Okay. If you can look at the page that I've opened now, my first question was in the multiple choice. It says that the credit sale of goods with an amount of 16,000 Rand would be recorded under. All right, let me classify things. So just try to explain things before we get down or jot down to the questions here. All right, as we'll be focusing on debtors and creditors today, I just want to give you a little bit insight with regards to what the debtors is. So what does it entail? Okay. So who are the debtors or what is a debtor? A debtor is somebody who owes you the money. Okay. In terms of the accounting, so it falls under we call it the trade receivables control account, and it's an asset. And as we know by the principle that the asset increases on the credit side, sorry, my apologies, it increases on the debit side and decreases on the credit side. Okay. But then again, it's important for you to understand what increases the debtors and what decreases the debtors. Right. Obviously, there's a lot of factors, or there's a lot of transactions, or there's a lot of things that they do affect a decrease or an increase with regards to the debtors. All right, let me switch on to what the trade payables control account entails. Basically, is the opposite of the trade receivables control account. It's somebody to whom you owe the money, not who owes you the money. But in terms of the accounting principles, it increases on the credit side and decreases on the debit side. It also has some transactions with the factors that decreases it or increases it. We're going to look at that when we do those the T account questions. Right, we're going to look at things like what causes the decrease or what causes the increase with regards to the trade and other payables control account. Everybody happy? Okay, so I'd like you guys to actually can participate here. Remember, yes, ma'am. Sorry.
Before you continue, this is Johanna.
Yes, Johanna, how are you?
Background noise. I don't know if you can ask everyone to mute the lines and they can unmute when they have questions. Because I'm beginning to hear what you say with the background noise. Thank you.
Okay, not a problem. Okay, I'm gonna ask everybody to go back to mute, and I'm gonna ask you questions, and then I expect you to, if you've got an answer for me, then you can unmute yourself and give me the answer, and then we would continue like that. Because Johanna is actually complaining about the background noise there, but I had the baby smiling or crying there. So I hope I'm clear, and probably that will satisfy you, Johanna, as well, so that we can continue with the class. Okay, let's have a look at the first question here under the multiple choice, where it says the credit sales of goods with an amount of 16,000 Rand would be recorded under. Right, anybody with an answer on that one? Where do you record the credit sales of goods despite the figure of 16,000 Rand? Where does it go? This is one of the questions that was in your May-June exam paper.
Cash receipts journal.
Yes, Joanna? Cash receipts journal.
It's Sandra. I'm saying it's the cash receipts journal.
All right, she says the cash receipts journal. Anyone with a second opinion?
I think it's the sales journal.
Sales journal. Any opposed?
I think it's a purchases journal.
As the purchases journal. Is there anybody else with an answer that is different to those of the three that they said or mentioned? Right, the correct answer would be C, sales journal. Remember, when the goods are sold on credit, under the journals, it will go through your sales journal. Okay, so when you sell goods on credit, normally you raise what's called the debtors. Okay, so in this instance, if you sold the goods on credit with an amount of 16,000, for example, when you do the T account for the trade and other receivables control account, it will go through to your debit side because your debtors are increasing as you're selling goods on credit. But the correct answer here is sales journal. Right. As you've got my email there, if you need this, you can email me and then I will forward it through to you. Right. Let's have a look at my things. Right, that's fine. If you look at my top right corner on the second page, it says the credit note received would be recorded under. Where do you normally record this? But I think I made a mistake on this one. But when you receive a credit note, it means that certain goods that have been purchased or sold, they are returned back to the supplier or to the seller. Okay, so let me give you an answer to that one, because I made a mistake on this one. So it'll actually go under both your sales returns or the purchases returns journal. So I think I was supposed to have something like the purchases returns journal as well as your purchases returns journal in here. Okay. Goods that are purchased on credit would be recorded under. Where do you record goods that are purchased on credit? Anybody quickly, please? Sales journal.
Purchase journal.
Purchases journal. Anybody else? It's purchases journal, yes. So the goods purchased on credit is the opposite of the goods sold on credit. So obviously you need to record that under your purchases journal. Okay. So these are the things that you'd find, I think, under your learning unit for the trade and other payables control account. And for the goods that were sold on credit, you'd find it under the learning unit for trade and other receivables control account, if I'm actually not mistaken. Right. So the fourth question says that, please come again.
Good question.
Would you like me to repeat the question?
No, can I please ask a question?
You may, please.
Okay, I'm a little bit confused. So, goods sold on credit.
Goods sold on credit?
We record them under purchases journal, right?
No. The goods sold on credit are recorded under the sales journal. And then the goods purchased on credit are recorded under your purchases journal.
Oh, okay. I get my confusion. All right.
Are you sorted now?
Yes.
Is everybody clear on that?
Between the purchase and sold.
Or the purchase and sold. All right. Anything that has been purchased or sold on credit, forget about the cash receipt journal or the cash payment journal or the general journal. It will go through to your purchases journal or the sales journal. Right. So anyway, the sales journal is a journal that carries only the goods that were sold on credit. And the purchases journal, they only carries the journal transaction for the goods that were purchased on credit. Okay. Are we all happy there? All right, goods, I'm going to move on now. Goods purchased on credit. All right, goods purchased on credit were returned would be recorded under the returned goods that were purchased on credit. Where do you record that? The returns journal, the purchases returns journal. Thank you so much for that. Okay, let me move to the next one. Okay, there's a bit of a scenario there. I said Mason Limited made a fixed deposit of 500,000 rand, 10% per annum with a DWA bank, and it has been established that the interest received was only for 6 months. Right. Assuming that the year would be 2020, then it will start from the 1st of January up until the 31st of December 2020. Right. So, the question under that, it says the fixed deposit amount of 500,000 rand will be disclosed as. How would you disclose that? Right. Number one, it's an income received. Number two is the asset realization account. The number three is an income statement. Number four is your statement of financial position. Sorry, there's a background noise there. All right, thank you for that. Can I ask you to put yourself on mute, please? Please mute yourself. Can you please mute yourself? Can you please mute yourself? Sorry?
No, I'm saying it's Tepopule who is not muted.
Or is it Tepopule? Yeah. Can you please mute yourself? The noise at the background there is causing a distraction in the class. Please do mute yourself, as I mentioned before. Right. I've asked the question under the fixed deposit amount of 500,000 rand to be, where are you going to disclose that? Right. These are one of the trickiest questions that you might find under your multiple choice question. And you need to know how you deal with this. First and foremost, you need to establish what is a fixed deposit. Okay.
You're on mute.
I'm on mute.
You can't hear anything.
Oh.
You can't hear.
Yes.
You're on mute. You forgot to unmute your line.
Is it fine now?
Yes.
All right. There we go. Just a moment for me, please. All right. Here I got the question. Right. But did you hear my question around the fixed deposit, or was I muted at the time?
It was on mute. We didn't hear.
Oh, you didn't hear that.
Question back. Oh,
Okay, let me restart over again. Meso Limited made a fixed deposit of 500,000 rand, 10% per annum with DW Bank, and it has been established that the interest received was only for 6 months period. And my first question was, the fixed deposit amount of 500,000 rand would be disclosed as what? Income statement. Do you want to elaborate more? Why do you think is the income statement? Okay. All right. Let me give you the best. Let me give you the best advice when it comes to the what is it? An accounting student. This is what you have to do, and then it's going to help you in the future. When you've got a transaction, and then you're about to record the transaction, you need to know why are you recording the transaction. Okay, first and foremost, you're going to record the transaction. Where am I recording it? Okay, obviously it's going to affect what's called the debit and the credit, because that's our main rule of the legs when it comes to dealing with the accounting transactions. You need to know, why am I putting this transaction under a certain component? Right. And then you need to understand, why am I putting this under my debit or under my credit? There's always a reason behind as to why are you doing certain transactions in accounting. Right. So the truth is, you can't just say, okay, the assumption is my fixed deposit will fall under my income statement. You need to back up yourself as to, okay, I'm putting it under my income statement and these are my basics. You need to have valid reasons as to why are you doing that. Okay. Secondly, you need to realize, or you need to understand that talking with your transactions helps a lot. You understand? If you talk, like you read and talk to it, it will help you give an idea as to where am I going to put my transaction. Right. First and foremost, I'm asking you about the fixed deposit. But you need to ask yourself, okay, what is a fixed deposit? Right? I'm sure most of you have come to the realization of people investing money with the bank or the financial service sectors. Okay, so if you go to Absa today, or you go to NetBank and tell them that I've got 100,000 rand, or let me just give you a recent example with the what is it, African Bank. They've got these fixed deposit accounts with an interest rate of 13.333%, right? Which is greater at this point in time as opposed to any other bank in the country. But you go there, they tell you, okay, you can deposit whatever the amount, but it's going to be valid for more than a year period. Automatically, they will fall under your fixed deposit. Right. So looking at this, it's actually the opposite of your long-term loan. Yesterday, when we did the long-term loan, I advised you that not always that they're going to tell you that this is a long-term loan. They can't just say the loan of whatever the amount has been obtained with a certain bank. You just need to realize that because my payables towards the loan is going to be more than a year period, then it is a long-term loan. Same would apply to your fixed deposit. Okay, they'll tell you that it's valid for 3 years, or you're going to fix that amount of money for about 3 to 4 years, right? But what are the returns? The returns are going to be based on your interest that you're earning based on the fixed deposit that you made with whoever the financial institution is. Okay, so in that sense, it means that your fixed deposit, as I confirmed with you now, that is the opposite of your long-term loan. It means that you go to your statement of financial position as your non-current assets. So meaning that if you've got a fixed deposit amount of 500,000 rand, you need to report that amount of money under your statement of financial position on the balance sheet. Are you happy? So your answer would lie at number 4. Right. I'll put a little bit of a tricky one there as well. Let's look at this question. the interest amount would be disclosed as what? Right, my first question is income received and expenditure in cash or payment. And then number 2 is, if you can see it on your bottom, bottom left on the second page, it's creditors and liabilities, income received and trade and other receivables, credit losses written off, and income earned. What do you think is the best answer here? Any try quickly, please. Creditors and liabilities. Okay, anyone with an opposing? So come again, please.
Income received and other receivables.
Income received and other receivables. I had some guy wanted to talk something there. Please come through.
I wanted to say it's supposed to be income received and trade and other receivables.
All right.
You mentioned that it's an asset.
It's an asset, right? Okay, the two of you, why do you think it's an income received and trade and other receivables?
Because you got income from the fixed deposit
Because we got an income for?
from the 10% fixed deposit.
No, you're right. We got the income for 10% and what?
It's a non-current asset, as you say.
Yes.
It's another receivable.
Yes.
So that's a non-current asset.
But the trade and other receivables is a current asset. It's not a non-current asset. Yes, the fixed deposit it is a non-current asset. You're right. But the trade and other receivables, as you're mentioning as part of your answer there, it's not a non-current asset. Actually, with the income received, I'm fine with that. But I want to know, why do you say it's a trade and other receivables?
Because it's a current asset.
Because it's
A current asset. The interest we receive.
the interest received already, it's an income, which is fair enough. I agree with that one, right? But I need an explanation behind the trade and other receivables. Why do you have to include that as part of your answer?
It's not because it falls under current assets.
You're right. Trade and other receivables do fall under your current asset. Right. Let me help you quickly there. Well, the one who said creditors and liabilities, it's actually not a correct answer. All right. All right. Let me just go back quickly to the question, which says the fixed deposit of 500,000 rand at 10% per annum with the DW Bank, and it has been established that the interest received was only for 6 months period. Right. In accounting, the financial period normally it's for 12 months period, right? But they're telling us that the interest that we have received, it's only for 6 months period, which was why we've got why the answer is 3. We did receive an income, but we didn't receive the full income. Okay, meaning that DW Bank still owes an interest for the remaining 6 months period. So they become what? A debtor through to us, because they owe us that amount of money. That's why you see both of these, income received and trade and other receivables, as an answer. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay, meaning that if we have received the 10% interest for the entire 12 months, it was going to be recorded as an income received only. Right, and then now, based on what we did yesterday, you need to identify as to where would this go. Right, you're going to draft the P&L and OCI statement, and then you're going to put income received as part of your other incomes for that 6 months portion. And the remaining 6 months portion, it will go under your statement of financial position as trade and other receivables, control account. But what would happen to the 500,000 rand? We don't touch it. We put as fixed deposit under your statement of financial position. Can you see the split in between the three? 500,000 rand would go under the statement of financial position, still there, right? But whatever that we have earned, it's going to go through to the incomes, and then you do the receivables. Sorry, do you have a question?
Hello, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello, sir. We couldn't hear. There's a sound background. I don't know if the person can hear you. We can't hear anything.
I don't know how many times should I say that student must learn to behave. I mentioned earlier before, and I mentioned for the second time to say that please don't mute yourself because you are disturbing the other students. You're only allowed to unmute yourself if you've got a question or if you've got an answer for me. Am I clear? Please let's all behave. I think she heard us. Anyway, as I was saying, I was trying to split. I was trying to split the 500,000 rand and the 10% and for 6 months and the 10% and for the remaining 6 months. 500,000 rand will go to your statement of financial position. It will be under your fixed deposit, right? It doesn't change. And then the 6 months interest that we have earned, it will go under your income received. Then you're going to draft under your income statement, you're going to put other incomes, and then you'd say interest received for the investments. And then the other one, because we haven't received it, which is actually for 6 months. And then it will go under the trade and other receivables. Let me just make your life much more easier in this way, because I know if I'm going equal okay, it's actually denying me, but it's fine. I wanted to amend it to make it 4 and 6 so that it will make 4 and 8 so that it will be able to be clear, because if I say 6 is the remaining and the other 6 is it has been received, it's more like I'm not being quite clear on that one. But moving forward, let's but what would be the contra account for the fixed deposit? What is the contra account for the fixed deposit?
Bank.
Bank. Any suggestions? Any suggestions? People agree with the bank? Okay, yeah, whoever said the bank, it's fine. Remember, when you make an investment, you're taking the money out of the business bank account. So meaning that the fixed deposit would increase and the bank would decrease, okay? So when you do the T account, you're going to say fixed deposit, and then you're going to have bank on the debit side with 500,000 rand. And then your contra allocation account would be cash and cash equivalents, which is bank. And then on the credit side, you're going to put fixed deposit with the very same amount. Okay. So as you can see that I'm bringing the double entry system. Okay. I just don't put one transaction at a go or one single leg because I need my other leg. But let's look at the journal transaction. The other question says the journal transaction would be recorded as. Under the journal transaction, how are you going to record that? Listen, these are the type of questions that you need to expect. And then if you're going to start on the way, you're going to have a problem because they like them. They're quite tricky, I must say, but they do like them. You need to be very careful on this one.
To date, the last 500,000 with debit fixed deposit and credit the bank account.
Please come again.
You debit the fixed deposit to increase it and credit the bank account to decrease the bank account.
Decrease. I just gave you the answer with regards to that one just now, right? Okay, so the debit number 2 would be an answer. You debit your fixed deposit and then you credit your bank. As I said, the money stepped out of the business bank account. That's why you've got bank on the credit, and obviously it goes through to the fixed investment account with DW Bank. That's why you've got it under your debit side. All right. So when goods sold on credit are returned, what would their recording be or look like? How are you going to record that? Initially, you've sold goods on credit. For some reason, there was a defect on your goods, and the customer is not happy, and they say, you know what, I'm returning the goods, and what is the transaction going to look like? Okay, you need to have this kind of a picture. When you sell goods on credit, this is what is going to happen. This is what is going to happen. The journal to be affected is your sales journal. That's your starting point. Okay, and when you're selling the goods on credit, primarily you are raising what's called the debtor, because they don't pay you immediately. Okay. And now the customer is actually not happy, and what do? They are returning back the goods.
Okay, so I can try that one.
You may, please do, please do.
Okay, since when we are selling the goods on the credit, we will debit our debtors control and then credit ourselves. So now when the debtor is returning the goods, we will debit self-return and credit trade debtors.
I like that. Thank you so much for that. That's what I call the principle. Okay, so you establish your primary starting point, all right? That when you make the goods on sale, obviously you're going to say, credit your sales and debit your debtors. Now the debtors are returning the goods back. So it's going to be the opposite of that. Okay, but this time around it's not going to be the sales, it's going to be the return. The sales return, and then you credit the trade debtors. Okay. You want to explain to them why are you doing that, particularly on the trade debtors?
Okay.
Listen, your answer is very perfect. I like your answer, but I would like you to actually can explain further to them as to why are you putting the trade creditors, the trade debtors on the credit side.
Okay, let me try to explain it.
Please do, sure.
Since our debtors will be decreasing,
yes,
and the debtors for the assets and
yes,
then they decrease on the credit side. That's the reason we will credit trade debtors.
Thank you so much for that. You don't know how that makes me so happy. Right, that's exactly the reasons as to why. A debtor is an asset. Primarily, it does increase on your debit side. This time around, because of the the clients are returning the goods back, that decreases the debtor. Right? Since well as an asset decreases on the credit side. That's why you see trade debtors as a credit. Is everybody happy? But listen, I'm going to highlight the correct answers with blue colors, so that if you need the solution, then I'll be able to email them through to you. Right. That comes to the end of our multiple choice questions. Now we have to face the key account questions, the trade and other receivables control account, as well as the payables control account. Okay. But thank you so much for participating on that part. Right, let's look up there where it says on your top left, first page, it says Meso Limited extracted a ledger account for the 31st December 2020 with the following transactions. Number one, it was discovered that an inexperienced bookkeeper prepared the trade and receivables control account. Right, here's the thing. Immediately when you see that this person is quite inexperienced at his work, the chances are you are not going to be competent at what you're doing. Right, so it should give you an idea that, okay, you give me this information, which is probably incorrect, then I have to correct it. Okay, and then the second thing is, okay, is the trade and other receivables control account. What else can I do? Nothing else except the trade and other receivables control account. Okay, that means I need to rectify the errors under the trade and other receivables control account. How so? Depending on the required part. Let's look further down there before we look at the bulletins. Right, number A says that you need to do the trade and other receivables control account, and then you need to reconcile the list of your debtors with their trade receivables determined on A. What B says that when they say that you need to reconcile the balance on that, meaning that when you do the T account, your year-end balance, which is the balance carried down, it should match what is required out of B. Okay, if your balance carried down after the adjustments of the correction, let's say it's 10,000 Rand. When you do the recon, and then your recon is 15,000 Rand, that means somewhere, somehow, your transaction went wrong. And then you need to rectify them. Okay, those that they've got a background with regards to the bank reconciliation statement, it's actually similar to that one. So when you're reconciling, it means that you're matching whatever that is actually not matched quite correctly. So we're doing exactly the same thing here. But let me look at bulletin number 1, where it says the sales journal was overcasted by 1,000 Rand. Let me advise you of something. Immediately when you attempt a question on the trade and other receivables control account, you need to know that there are going to be transactions that are going to affect the left leg, and the other ones would affect the right leg. The bigger question is, how so? How so mean that you need to go back to the basic principles. As that lady mentioned, that trade and other receivables control account is an asset, and asset increases on the debit side, and then that it decreases on the credit side. So now your second step would be, which transactions would go on the debit side? Why am I putting them on the debit side? So the same would apply to which transaction would go on the credit side, and then why am I putting them on the credit side? However, the transaction that goes on the credit side, it means that they reduce the debtors, or they decrease the debtors. And the transaction that goes on your debit side, it means that they increase your debtors. Right. So your starting point is goods are sold on credit. So your primary starting point will be, okay, the effect would be under my sales channel, meaning that all the goods that have been sold on credit to the clients, they're going to form what's called an opening balance, or the balance brought down when you consolidate them or when you add them together, and then you put that on the debit side as your opening balance. Okay, so sometimes they might give you transactions with regards to the trade and other receivables, and they say how much is the total balance under your sales journal, because that's where it starts. And then it means that you need to add each and every list of debtors and then come up with the total amount where it's going to go through to your debit side of the trade and other receivables control account. Does that make sense? Right, sales journal, bulletin number 1 says sales journal was overcasted by an amount of 1,000 Rand. I think I forgot to put the R there. Sorry about that. Okay, bulletin 2 says goods worth 4,000 Rand were returned by the clients due to a defect. Right, probably the goods reflected a danger somehow, somewhere. Okay, this would relate to, I think earlier this year there was a news that was trending about the tin fish. I think it was manufactured or produced in Cape Town, and they went to the shelves of all the retail stores in the country. Okay, and they realized that the pill charts, they had a defect. I don't know what defect, but it was dangerous. So they've advised all the retail stores to actually remove them to the shelves. Right. So here's the thing. Retail stores would say, okay, we can't just remove the goods on the shelves, okay, and make a loss out of them. And then what would they do? They're going to take those goods and bring them back to what's called the suppliers, whoever manufactured that, and then they would be able to get their refund based on that. That's actually one of the possible reasons with regards to the goods to be returned. Right. So the second question would be, on which side would it affect your debtors and why? Then we are done. Let's look at bulletin number 3. It's an RD check of 650 which bounced back due to insufficient fund from Stanley, one of the debtors. Right. This happens to many of us. We've got debit orders that normally bounce back. And then what do we do about that? You're going to be responsible for the bank charges of that one because that's your fault. It's not even anybody's fault that you didn't have enough funds in your bank account, right? But what you is you need to pay whoever that you owe. So immediately when it bounces back is your responsibility. The bank will charge you the bank charges based on that. All right. Fourth bulletin, credit sales of 200 Rand was written off, and it was established that the amount was included in the credit sale amount of 14,490. Okay. You go to Truworths, you open your account. Okay. So obviously your application will be handed over to the credit manager. They evaluate your incomes and stuff like that, and they give you what's called the credit limit. I'm sure most of you had such a thing. But then the agreement will be, okay, you take goods, which are mostly the clothes, and you pay them on an installment basis. That's why when you go to the retail store, people that they do have the account, they will tell you, are you going to pay this on 6 months basis or the 12 months basis? Okay, and the whole idea behind that thing, it's the interest issue. Okay, not everybody will be able to can pay the account on time. There are some of the people like me and you who are going to default. Okay, that's where the issue of the write-off comes into the picture. But how does it come into the picture? The company have got this policy to say that they've got what's called the age analysis. The age analysis works in this way, in correlation with the accounting. They say, okay, you didn't pay your installment, let's say in the month of November. What is going to happen? They're going to record you as a doubtful debt because they are doubting you to can be on time with regards to your payment in the future. And then you skip your payment again in December. And then they're going to now look at the policy. If the company policy says that in 3 months, if you haven't paid up or pitched up for your installment, then they're going to write you off as a bad debt. Okay? That will be regarded as a loss towards the company. Right. Bulletin number 5, assuming that the opening balance to be correct with an amount of 48,650. This is what I was talking about. Sales journal, the total list of all the debtors, you add them together, you come up with a sum of 48,650. That would be your opening balance for the debtors. Right. An invoice for an amount of 500 Rand was entered twice in the sales journal. Right. So accounting says that if there was an error with regards to the recording of a transaction, you need to rectify that error before you can post it to the correct link. Right, so if we look at the bank discount amount with an amount of 45,000 rands. Okay. All right, as you've got an account with whoever the retail store is, at the end of the day or at the end of the month, you make payment. And here's what is going to happen. When you make the payment, they're going to record that under the business bank account. Okay, and automatically that would reduce you as the debtors. Okay, so in the meantime, you need to figure out as to where would that go. Okay, the individual list of the debtors per trade receivables ledger account is 38,000 Rand. Okay, and then here we're talking about the specific debtors there. Okay, I think it should be part of your record, but we'll see when we cross the bridge. Let's have a look at the next bulletin. Sales invoice number 221 for 25,000 Rand is presumed to be entered correctly in the sales journal, but it was entered in Zane's account as 250. Look at how big the error. Look at how big this error is. Okay. The next bulletin says a check for an amount of 60 Rand received from Daniels in full settlement of his account was incorrectly analyzed as sales in cash receipts journal. Right? And we've got the credit note number 12 for 50 Rand was entered correctly in the sales journal. Sorry, sales returns journal, but wrongly posted to the debit leg account of Charles. Right. So looking at the record there, we've got the trade receivables control account, and you need to reconcile the balances on there. Please forgive my there. The E is not there on the trade receivables determined on A. Okay. So before we attend this question, this is one of the things that you need to consider. If a transaction does not affect an individual data, it means that it will go through to your journals. And then if a transaction has affected your journals, it means that it cannot go through to the debtors, to the individual debtors, to be rather specific. Am I making sense? Okay, let's have a look at bulletin number 1. It says sales journal was overcosted by 1,000 Rand. Anybody quickly who think where would go under the trade receivables control account? On which side, debit or credit? And why is that? You can unmute yourselves if you've got an answer for me. Hello?
The trade receivables control account should be credited with 1,000.
Let me look at my question quickly. Sorry. The trade receivable control account should be credited with the 1,000 rand. Thank you for that. Do you want to back up your question? Sorry, do you want to back up your answer?
The sales journal usually reports the credit sales, and then we process the sales journal into debit the trade receivables control account.
Okay, that's very correct, right? Initially, we know that. Did I interrupt you there?
No, just to finish it off, to do that to credit the same account of 1,000.
That's very correct. Thank you so much for that. Okay, we found out, or we have established that the recording of the debtors was overcosted, meaning that it went over with an amount of 1,000 rand. Then how do you reduce that? It's going to be reduced on the credit side, simply because just a moment, I've got somebody in here. I think she wants to ask me something. Hello, ma'am.
Hi,
You want to wait?
as this is more for this step, né? But how come it's some computer lab? I just want to reboot my password.
Okay, nice one. We just straight through go tutoring room, and then look for the guy called Johan.
Okay. Sorry, I overheard your conversation. Sorry, I'm very sorry. Is that accounting?
Yeah.
Accounting.
1502.
And it's a lot of
Putty.
Putty.
Yes.
Can I have your details, please? Even your email address.
What time are you leaving? Because I'm actually running a class. I'm running late.
Oh.
What time are you leaving?
I'm gonna leave just now when I'm finished redoing my password.
Okay, I'm gonna write them down now. Then just walk in there.
Okay, sorry about that. Thank you very
No
much.
problem. Sorry guys, I'm back. My apologies for that. Somebody just came in through in the class. Okay. As we were on bulletin number 1, sorry, my apologies for that one. So we had an overcast of the sales by 1,000 rand. That lady was correct when she said that we need to move it to the right leg, which is the credit side, because we need to bring it to where it belongs as the total balance of the trade and other receivables control account. Right. Second bulletin, I'm going to need an answer on that one as well. It says that goods worth of 4,000 rand were returned by the client due to the defects. Anybody quickly? Sorry guys, am I still on mute or am I okay? Can somebody give me an answer quickly there? Can you all hear me? I'm back, guys.
Yes.
All right, thank you so much. No, I just need one person to actually say yes. Right, bulletin number 2, where it says goods worth of 4,000 rand were returned by the client due to the defects. Any? Okay, before you give me a suggested solution there. Sorry, do we have Tawanda? Tawanda, are you there today? Is Tawanda in the class? Okay, it means he's actually not here. Okay, now we can carry on. Hello? All right, now I was asking you guys a question. The second question says the goods worth the 4,000 rand were returned by the client due to the defects. Where do you record this? Okay, obviously you will go through to your trade and other receivables control account. Which side and why? Silence means consent. Goods were returned back to, I just give you an example with regards to the shop, right, or the retail store regarding that purchase tins. Right, guys, I'm your client. I buy goods from you on credit. Okay, so immediately when I buy goods from you on credit, it means that my account with you as a debtor goes up. Okay, for whatever the reason concerning the defects, I realized that I need to return some of the goods out of what I have purchased on you. So it's going to work this way. The debtors control account would increase with whatever that I'm buying from you on credit under me as an individual debtor through to you. Okay. Remember, the debtors control account is a consoles of a list of debtors. Right, but I happen to return the goods back to you. That means that the whole debtors control account is going to decrease. Remember, initially you have built what's called, or consolidated what's called, the total amount of all the individual debtors, right? But one of the debtors or one of your clients returned the goods. It's going to affect the debtors control account entirely, simply because initially there was an addition with regards to an individual list of debtors. Okay, so as you and I have agreed that the trade and other receivables control account increase on the debit side, this time around it will decrease, and then it will go through to the credit side because I'm returning the goods back. Make sense?
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, this is Johanna.
Yes, Johanna.
The reason I actually joined today this
The class.
class
Yes.
is that I battle a lot with this subject. But I find it easy if someone gives like a live examples. For instance, if we can start with the debtors and the creditors. Let's say, for instance, we say debtors it's Puti and he's a shop owner, and then the creditors is Olena, and then she's a buyer. So when we go through all the steps, we understand that Puti is the shop owner, hence we call him the creditor, the debtor, something like that. A
Okay.
live example that will assist, because I get lost along the line.
Okay, but here's I hear what you're saying, because you need to be specific with regards to who is who based on the debtors and the creditors. Okay.
Yes.
However, it's going to be a problem based on the short space of time that you have now. Let me tell you why. A debtor can also be a creditor at the same time within the same firm. Do you get what I'm saying? I understand you're looking for the basics, okay? But these are your basics in a sense that Meso Limited is a supplier. Whoever that has been transacted under this bulletin, the chances are they are your debtors. Okay, so it might even get worse if they say that Meso Limited bought the goods from Stanley. Stanley, can you see transaction number 2 with an RD check for the Stanley?
Yes.
It's possible that Meso Limited as a supplier towards the debtors can also buy goods from this person.
So around, yes.
Yes, it can be a swap around of that.
Yeah.
Okay, but you understand the relationship now that, okay, Meso is holding the account for the clients. So that means Meso is the supplier. Okay,
Yes.
it's a company that is actually selling goods on credit. Whoever appear on the list of these transactions here, they become my debtors.
Meso status.
Yes, they are my list of debtors.
Okay.
Maybe I should have explained that from the beginning. But I thought you would catch it as primarily when I give you the examples with regards to, remember, I mentioned true as now. Or let's say for she, for example. If you've got an account, Joanna, if you've got an account with Fashin automatically in their books, remember, Fashin, they're not interested in what you do in your books. They're only interested in you keeping the payments. Okay.
Yes.
So on the other side of their books, they're going to record you as one of the list of their debtors. I don't know if you can you see the relationship between you and them.
Yes.
They took the risk of giving you what's called unforeseen cash, all right, or unforeseen credit. But they're going to regard you as their debtor because you're buying goods on credit based on what they gave you as a credit available. Can I give an example with the bank? Same applies to the credit card. If you go to Absa or if you go to NetBank and they create you a credit card account, okay? So initially they would give you, let's say, they would say, okay, you qualify for 10,000 rand. Immediately when you use that, it means that you're binding yourself to can be able to make a monthly payment. So normally with the credit card, they won't tell you the specific amount because you use whatever that is available in the credit account. Okay, but what they can say is, okay, pay us maybe 5% of what you're owing or 5% of what you've used, which is what you're owing. Okay, so for example, it's different in this sense. Let's say you go to what is it, Absa. You get the credit card. Normally they would call you. You qualify for this and this and this and this and this. They give you the card with an available balance. Okay, and then you don't use it. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yes.
The bigger question would be, are you a debtor towards them? The answer to that would be a no. The answer to that one would be a no, simply because you haven't used their money.
Yes, yes.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Very, very clear.
Is it clear? What are you going to pay if you haven't used anything? Up until you use that. Same applies to up until if you give me the credit available of a certain amount. Up until I buy goods, that's when I'm become a debtor through to you.
Very clear. Thank you.
All right. So, but you get the relationship now.
I do.
All right. Thank you for that. So that means it gives me, what is it, the freedom to can move on, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, guys.
I beg your pardon?
I'm saying sorry to the rest of the students. for the
No.
delay.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's within your right to actually can ask if you don't understand something. Right. We've got is there anybody else with a question, clarity, or something? The reason why I want Tawanda to actually can come up here is because he sent me an email yesterday based on question number 2 that we did. Remember the question number 2, I gave you the platform to write it down yourself because it's within your tab 1 or 2. There's no need for me to can give you the solution while it's actually there. You understand? The solutions that I have mostly it's what I have created. So Tawanda was like, okay, in the first question, you gave us the question and we had the answers that was there. So they were all on the screen. And all of a sudden, this question, we don't have it. So he was struggling to actually get to the final answers. I think she's scared of the type of questions that she's going to get. Sorry, he's going to get in the exam because you're all facing the multiple choice question. Okay, understand your fear. To be honest with you, I do understand your fear. But unfortunately, I don't have the power to change what has been decided on. Okay, so that's why I was advising everybody that the least you can worry about in accounting, it's the principle. Never ever worry about, okay, my final answer is this. Worry about how am I going to arrive at the final answer? Which steps am I going to take? Is it the necessary steps that I'm taking to actually can get my final answer? But let me tell you something. It will help you in a way. It won't help you at this point in time, especially if you're following the wrong process, because we're looking for the exact answer at this point in time. Unlike before, I'm going to emphasize this, unlike before, I would mark you correctly for the process that you followed as part of the principles. That's how students used to gain, a lot of students used to get distinctions on their first year, second year. Not that because they arrived at the exact answers that the lectures were looking for, but simply because they followed what me and the lectures are looking for, which is the principle. Right. So, but the tricky part here is you can follow the principle, but arrive at the incorrect answer. And that's where the problem is. All right. So let's have a look at the bulletin number 3 with an RD check of £650 back.
Sorry,
Yes, ma'am.
before you continue, I wonder raised their hand.
Oh, I thought he would speak. Let me see. Tawanda. Tawanda, if you can hear me, you are registered as, because I don't see Tawanda name on my teams. Oh, Tawanda, are you fine today? Because yesterday you sent me a very interesting question, a very interesting email. Does this suit your expectation? Is it meeting your expectations? Because all you wanted was, okay, the question and the solution at the same time. Am I reaching your expectations? Can you please unmute yourself and answer my question? I just want to make sure that we're actually in the same bus. Tawanda? Right, I think that gives me the right, you can move on. I thought maybe you would okay, let's see. But for the last time, Tawanda, can I move on? All right, it means it's happy. Right, the RD check, it's normally, as I said, that you are responsible for your own payments to make sure the money is in your bank account so that you'll be able to meet your responsibilities. And there is Stanley trying to make the payment with the check, and there was no funds in the bank account. It bounced back. Okay. Initially, when you receive it, that's why when you go to the bank, they would say, okay, the check takes about, what is it, maybe 7 days for clearance, because they're trying to actually overcome this kind of unforeseen circumstances, or these bad ones, right? Where you record that, okay, we have received the payment, later on it bounced back, okay? So that would also increase the size of the debtors, because ultimately or eventually you haven't paid us. It would remain the same. You are going to be the debtor. But bulletin 4, we've got the credit sale of 200 Rand that was written off. Yes, ma'am.
On my side, it's only showing the main screen. Can you please go back to your screen?
I think I am on my screen. Is everybody seeing the same thing that she's saying? Or do you see the main screen of the question? Do you see the main screen?
Yes.
Okay. Whoever's complaining that, don't you think the problem is probably on your side or something? Right, let's do this. Can you see my mouse? Can you see
I
the,
only see the names of the participants.
is it?
Yes.
Do you see this?
Still showing the same thing.
Okay. I took it up. I minimized it. Still showing the same thing.
Yes.
Okay, let me do this. Can you see my emails? My inbox?
No.
Oh.
But you need to stop sharing and then share the desktop.
Come again?
I'm saying you need to stop sharing and then share again your screen, but then share the desktop.
Oh. Let me see. But I'm sharing the desktop now. Okay, you who said that I must stop sharing and share the desktop. Can you see the desktop?
It's Johanna.
Yeah, Johanna, can you see?
I still see that Meso LTD extracted the ledger.
So you see the right thing. You see the right page, basically.
I see you scrolling.
Okay. I don't know what could be the problem with the lady who was complaining that she sees the list of the participants.
I think maybe it's the website.
I think the problem is actually on your side, because everybody else is seeing what I'm seeing here, or what I'm displaying. Right. Without any waste of time, then I'm going to move forward. Bulletin number 4 says credit sales of 200 Rand was written off, and it was established that the amount was included in the credit sale amount of 14490. Right. Where do you think this recording would go? Okay, immediately when there's a write-off of a certain data, it means that we're not expecting your payment anyway. So we're going to abandon your account completely, unless if you do decide to surprise us in the future that here's my hand and I'll be able to pay what I owe you guys. Okay, so when we write you off, it means that it decreases the total amount of the debtors entirely. Right. So the decrease of the credit sales written off would come to the credit side with an amount of 200 Rand. Okay, so in this instance, it would decrease 14,490, or the debit side of the trade and other receivables control account. Right. Bulletin number 5 says the opening balance, okay, assuming the opening balance to be correct with an amount of 48,650. The reality here is we are dealing with the trade receivables control account. So they're telling that there's the balance brought down is 48,650. This one would just straight go to the debit side. Okay, even if you don't get marks under your trade and receivable control account, this should be the easiest one. Okay, because you don't have to ask yourself, does it go to the debit or credit? The only thing that you ask yourself, okay, it's an asset, it's an opening balance, then it's my debit, and then you are sorted. Bulletin 6, an invoice for the amount of 500 Rand was entered twice in the sales journal. Right. What is a sales journal? It records the list of the debtors, an individual debtors for an individual list of the debtors. Yeah, I think I put it correct there. Okay. So what happens is you're going to have the sales journal, which is your debtors on the debit side. Okay, but you need to take out the 500 Rand simply because it was entered twice, meaning that our sales, it's overcosted with an amount of 500 Rand. Make sense? Bank discount amounts to 45,000 Rand. Okay, so when your debtors are paying you the money, automatically it goes through to their bank account. Okay, this is how it goes. Sometimes your suppliers, they encourage you as a debtor to actually can pay your account before time. And the main reason behind that one is because they just want to close your account or have a good relationship with you. And they will encourage you to do it there by saying, we'll give you a 5% or 6% discounts. Okay, and then if you feel that you're going to save a lot of money, if you comply with what they suggested towards you, then you'll be able to pay that amount of money. And then you gain 5% of the discount. Right, individual list of debtors per trade receivables ledger account is 38,000 Rand. This would be your opening balance under the recon for the trade receivables individual list. Okay. And the sales invoice number 2214, 25,000 is presumed to be entered correctly in the sales journal, but was entered in Zane's account as 250,000 Rand. But here's the thing, this is where you need to be very careful. The sales journal, it's fine, meaning that the debtors control account, it's okay. Then where do we have to rectify this kind of an error? When we do the recon, but you need to read very carefully there. Say that the assumption should be that it has been entered correctly in the sales journal, but was entered on the debit side of for the account of Zane's with an amount of 250. Okay, so originally it was 25,000 Rand. Then we recorded that as 250, meaning that there's a shortage here under the Zane's account. Well, and the one follow says a check for 60 Rand received from D. Daniels in full settlement of his account was incorrectly analyzed as sales in the cash receipts journal. Right, this one would also go under your recon as well. Okay, then we're going to have the last one, which says the credit note number 12 for 50 Rand was entered correctly in the sales returns journal, but wrongly posted to the debit leg account of Charles. Okay, like I said, if any transaction has been recorded correctly under the journal account, it doesn't require any adjustment. It's fine. Okay, the only adjustment that you have to do is under the recon. Okay, I always tell my students this. Please make sure that when you do the trade and other receivables control account, go further and do your recon. Okay, go further, do your recon, make sure you do understand it. Why am I saying that? Guys, if you fail one question, you're losing a lot of marks. You always need to bear that in mind. That what if the multiple choice question comes up and it says 5 marks? Meaning that if you don't get it right, you're out. 5 marks, 95%. That's what you remain with. Make sense? Quickly, let me have a look at what my solution entails. Right. Trade and other receivables control account. We've got the balance brought down of 48,650. It's actually on the debit side. Let's have a look at that one. You remember when I say that I think it's bulletin number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When they say assuming that the opening balance to be corrected with an amount of 48,650. And there we go. Here it is on your debit side. Okay. Let's have a look at the issue with regards to the overcast. The first bulletin says the journal was overcasted with an amount of 1,000 rand. I put it there. Some lady gave me a very clear and nice explanation with regards to the overcast. But let's have a look at where does this 500 come from. I think maybe, right, an invoice for an amount of, an invoice for an amount of 500 rand was entered twice in the sales journal. Can you see that? And this is how you record it because you need to reduce that. Okay, let's have a look at the sales. These would basically, it's 14,490. Right, or let me have a look at bulletin number 2. Goods worth an amount of 4,000 rand were returned by the client due to the defects. Right, one of the lady, I remember she gave me a clear example that it should comes to the debit side. Can you see that? Sales returns with an amount of 5,000 rand. All right. I remember when I used to offer some classes before live here, I used to have some quite outstanding students. They would tell you that I'm quite comfortable in putting my sales returns on the debit side. And then I'll give you my reasons as to why I might do that. And I would wait and quiet, I would just keep quiet and say, and listen to what they say. They'll say, I'm going to put my balance brought down of 48,650, and then I'm going to minus my 4,000 rand for the sales return. Or I would say sales, actually, I think I'm giving you a wrong explanation. I would say my sales of 14,490 and I minus it with 4,000 rand. Does that make it correct or make it incorrect? Okay, no answer there, which it makes it quite correct because the credit size means that the minus, and then if you put it on the debit side and you put it in the brackets with 14,490 minus 4,000 rand, you're still deducting. Make sense? Is everybody there? Does it make sense? You put your 4,000 rand on the debit side. But this is the basic way of doing things, especially if you don't have an accounting background. This is actually a good way of doing things. Right. So you remember the check that is bounced, where it said bank RD check of or with an amount of 650,000 rand. Put it on the debit side, and simply because you claim to have paid me, but I haven't received your money because your check bounced back. Okay, so you still fall under the list of my debtors. It would increase it on the debit side with an amount of 650 rands. Right. You remember the debtor who failed to actually can pay us. There's a lot in the country that we have. So if you look at the credit losses written off with an amount of 200 rand, I'll show you that in the question. Okay. Bulletin number 4, it says credit sale with an amount of 200 rand was written off, and it was established that the amount was included in the credit sale amount of 14,490. How do you actually adjust that? I've got my 14,490 on my debit side, and then I reduce that by moving the credit loss written off on my credit side. Okay, so that clever student that I had back in the semesters, here obviously we take the 200,000 rand and put it under the sale as a deduction. Sorry, I think I had somebody's voice there. I might have interrupted you. Please go ahead. Okay, probably I had incorrectly. You remember the bank discount with an amount of 45,000 rand? It comes to the credit side simply because they paid me, then I have to reduce my list of debtors. Okay, then I put it there, and I realized that my debit is actually greater than my credit. And then my balance carried out is 13,090. This is exactly what I was talking about. That when you reconcile, if your reconciliation figure doesn't match the 13,090, that means something has gone wrong with your recording. But let's have a look at the reconciliation statement. But my first balance is the total list of the debtors with an amount of 38,000 rand. I'm going to go to the question quickly and have a look at it as to why am I putting it there. Okay, if you look at bulletin number 2468, bulletin number 8, where it says the individual list of debtors per trade receivable ledger accounts is 38,000 rand. So that means it's not opening balance with regards to the list of the debtors. Okay. I do it a different way. I set my deductible balance. So my deductible items. Error on Zane account. Let's look at what happens in Zane. Zane. If you look at bulletin number 9, where it says the sales invoice number 221 for 25,000 rand is presumed to be entered correctly in the sales journal. Why you should not worry about your recording of this transaction in your trade and other receivables account. Sales journal affect your trade and other receivables control account. So meaning that it has to be reconciled because already it has been entered correctly under our trade and other receivables control account. But what do you do with it? You say, my apologies, I didn't show that. Let's see. We say 22,000. I think it's 25,000, right? You say 25,000 rand, and then you minus 250, and you've got 24,750. Okay, so the error has been adjusted correctly. So, but let's have a look at where it says the incorrect posting of the credit note for D. Daniels. Let's have a look at it. Who is D. Daniels here? D. Daniels. Somebody with good eyes there. Can you help me where you'll find D. Daniels transactions? D. Daniels. Please help me. D. Daniels. All right. Bulletin number 11 under the one that we did for 25,000. Can you see that?
Yes.
Right. A check for 60 rand received from D. Daniel in full settlement of his account was incorrectly analyzed as sales in the cash receipts journal. Okay. So this has nothing to do with your trade and other receivables control account. And actually, I think I made a mistake by recording this one. This one doesn't require an adjustment, but can you see that? Put the vice versa, the correction with the error check with an amount of 60 rands. But let's have a look at where does this 100 rand come from. Incorrect posting of the credit note. I don't know why did I put D. Daniels there. But let's have a look at, right, the last one says credit note number 12 for an amount of 50,000 rand was entered correctly in the sales returns journal. There's no need for you to work on your debtors control account, but wrongly posted to the debit leg account of Charles. Okay. Then by moving it, we need to actually can multiply that by 2, and then it will give you the 100. Okay, these are some of the explanation as to why I've recorded things that way. Right. The first bulletin says that when an error is made in the journal, it only affects the control account and not the debtors list. This is what I just talked about. If you come across a transaction where it says so and so and so, this much of a transaction has been not recorded under whatever the journals it is, it means that automatically it has to go to your trade and other receivables control account. And then if they say that it has been correctly accounted for or recorded for under a certain journal, it means that you are done. The only thing you can look up for as your next step is the reconciliation. Make sense? Right. The second one, I said that when an entry was made on the wrong side of an account, the effect of the correction amounts double for the error, and that makes the wrong side to be corrected first and move to the correct leg. Right. Same applies to, if you can look at this, the incorrect posting there. Basically, where there's an error on the, if there's the error on the wrong side of the account, you need to rectify that error before you can move it to the right position or the right leg, if I may say. Right. Is there any questions? Any questions? I know a lot of students they don't go through the reconciliation statement, but you need that because you never know what is going to come up in your exam. So you'd rather be over prepared than under prepared. Okay. I'm telling.
I want to ask about the correct posting of credit note.
Yes,
What you say to multiple bank?
because we need to rectify the error that has occurred first, and then we have to move it to the correct side. So eventually there was an error that happened on the debit leg, and then we have to move it out and multiply it to be on the other side. Or it can happen that it was actually on the credit side. Then when we move it, we need to adjust the credit side before we can go to the right leg. Okay. For clearance on that one, I would advise you to look at your study guide. Not sure what the page number is, but it's on the learning unit under your trade and other receivables control account.
Okay.
Okay. Please do check that so that you are going to be sorted in the future.
Hello there.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
So when we have an incorrect balance, we record it twice.
You know, not necessarily that you've recorded twice, but remember, it's because of it was rectified first on whatever the leg it has appeared, and then you move it correctly to where it belongs. It's some sort of an adjustment, basically. Any question?
Can you explain it like this?
Come again?
So when it was incorrectly captured,
Yes.
it was debited to that account.
It doesn't matter.
We just it by 50 rand. So it's a debit by 50 rand, which was a mistake.
It
So
wasn't.
if you want to move that 50 rand, you credit the 50 rand, but then the net effect will be 0. So it means you credit him again by 50 rand. So that's why it's 50 times.
Yes.
We record it twice, yes. Oh, that's what I know, you record it twice, because when you record it once,
It will just cancel out the 50 rand, but doesn't get 50 rand on the credit side.
Sorry, I didn't get you quite correctly. I'm not sure whether you are rectifying me or you are.
No, because it seems that just giving people, just so that people don't make a mistake of just times by 2 every time an adjustment needs to be made for an incorrect posting.
All right. Then what's your suggestion on that?
That you, again, like you've done with the, since the beginning of the exercise,
Yes.
thinking about how the error was made. It was debited, therefore you need to credit, and then credit again in order for the transaction to be captured correctly.
That's why I don't want to. That's why I don't want to keep up with the with one leg of saying the debit, because the error could occur on the debit side. But the principle should be either way. It has to be adjusted and put it to be on the right leg. It's not about the issue of okay, we are dealing with the debit. It can be a what is it? A trade and other receivables, payables control account, okay, which it mostly affect what's called your credit side. That's why I don't want to stick to the issue of okay, it's a debit side, then obviously the adjustment should be on the debit side before you can move it to the credit side. Because it can be either way, depending on which account that you're dealing with. Right, any questions? Everybody happy? We are on now 23 minutes, and then we are left with the trade and other payables control account. It's quite short. Do you need a break? I can give you a 7 minutes break, and then we'll be left with 30 minutes. By 12 o'clock, we should be done. Do you guys need a break? Shall I continue?
yes.
All right. What? And you guys are clear with the multiple choice, right? Questions?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. And then if you're not clear on that one, then you can give me, send me an email. I'll send you there. Somebody wants to talk over there. Hello? Please go ahead, sir. Hello? Okay, let me move on. I think there was somebody who wanted to talk there. Maybe you were getting cut off or something. Right, I put that under your section C, right? If you look at this information relates to your trade and other payables control account. Let me give you an overview idea of what happens in your trade payables control account. It's normally your liabilities, okay? So trade payables control account is a liability, and then we know by the standards that liabilities increases on the credit side, and then they decrease on the debit side. So the same principle that I've initially told you about as to what would bring my credit side up or what would bring my debit side down, depending on which kind of transaction are you given, okay? But the issue around what would increase my payables and the issue around what would decrease my payables is still a huge factor, because you need to know what brings them down, what brings them up, what increases them, and what decreases them. Eventually, there's an opposite of your trade and other receivables control account. Okay, it's a liability that falls under your current liabilities because we've got it to be payable within 12 months period and not more. Right, but what are those? What forms or what are the transactions that can form your liabilities? Okay, this is always tricky for the students. I don't know why do they find trade receivables and control quite easier as opposed to the payables control account. Things like the income received in advance. That's one of the examples of your liabilities. Okay, that's one of the examples where it forms under your current liability. Okay, it can be performed in certain ways. For example, let's say you're renting an apartment with whoever the landlord is, and then you decided that, you know what, due to my financial circumstances, let me pay these properties 6 months in advance or 12 months in advance. Okay, let me just say 6 months because it's payable within 6 months, 12 months period. Immediately when you pay that amount of money to whoever the landlord is, what you're going to do is you would wait for the services to be rendered to you. The services to be rendered to you, it means that you need to occupy the space for a period of 6 months. Well, say for example, you got a job in Cape Town and then you need to move out of Johannesburg to go and stay in Cape Town. And then you paid me as your landlord in advance. Then what do you do in that instance? Do you say, it's fine, I made a decision to can pay you in advance? Or are you going to say, I'm moving out and then you need to repay me back whatever that you owe? Right. Yes, you can't just live like that. You can't just live like that. The reality is you're going to tell them, guys, I know that I paid you in advance and I need my money back because I'm moving to Cape Town. Okay, so normally we know with the landlords, they say, okay, wait for about whatever the number of days or whatever the amount so that we can run our admin and then we'll pay you back. That's one of the examples with regards to the income received, with regards to the current liabilities. So the income that has been received in advance, it forms part of your current liabilities. The other one is the accrued income. Am I saying it right? Okay, accrued expense. Accrued expense, sorry about that. So accrued expense in South Africa is commonly on your municipality payouts, right? We know that this country has a problem with people that are not paying. They're not paying their rates on time with the city, okay? With their city, right? So I know a lot of people, they do make an arrangements with regards to that one, okay? But immediately when your account becomes overdue, you become liable to a certain amount of money that you have to pay through to whoever that you owe. That makes it a liability. So meaning that an accrued expense, it will be a liability for the business. Okay. Right. The other liability would come out of your long-term loan. We know the long-term loan, it's your liability which falls under your non-current liability. Right. But how would that form part of your current liability? In this way, if you took a loan somewhere else that is payable over 12 months period, what they do is they're going to work on your installment that you pay. It can be on a quarterly basis, it can be on a biannual basis or a monthly basis, or even a year. Okay, so whatever that is due for you to pay, whoever that borrowed you that long-term loan, if it's due, let's assume that it's due in 6 months, right? It's in 6 months, you need to pay an amount of 60,000 for whatever that they gave you. Then what is going to happen is, because the accounting term is normally 12 months, they would say, okay, 6 months is due in 6 months' time, then they'll multiply that by 2. Okay, and then it will fall where? As your short-term portion of your current liability. It will fall under your current liability, but as a short-term portion. Right. So what you do, you'd say 60,000 multiplied by 12, because biannual multiplied by 2. My apologies.
Vanessa, can you mute your line, please?
Hello, sir.
Hello.
So even current portion of loan, they do appear in the current account, current liability.
They do, yes. You name that as your short-term portion. Remember, they've calculated what is due for you to pay. You haven't paid that as yet. Does that make sense? Let's say you accumulate a loan with Absa Bank in January, and they say that the loan is actually for a 5-year term. And then they say, at the end of June, you need to pay us 60,000 rand. The bigger question would be, have you paid that or have you not paid that? And the answer to that is no. They've just established as to how much should I pay, but I haven't paid that amount of money. That is what is making you due to pay Absa Bank. All right. And then the other thing would be, how many times in a year would I pay that? It's twice, because biannual reflect twice in 12 months period. So you'd say 60,000 multiplied by 2 months. Sorry, 2. Basically, it's 2 biannual in 12 months period. Make sense? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you, sir.
All right. So that's basically how it works. The other one could be the issue with your bank overdraft. Okay. So, you know, some of the people there, some of the citizens in the country, they've got, let me say, bank has established this thing of you open a certain type of account, which would give you access if the income that you have in the account is finished. I know FNB is common with that. Basically, 4 of the major banks in the country, they do that. What is going to happen is, I don't know how is the structure looking like, but obviously you sign whatever the type of account that you've opened with the bank. Let's say you receive a salary of 200 rand on a monthly basis, and then it happens that 200 rand get finished at some point, and then you go to the ATM or you go to the bank, and then you require an excess of whatever the figure is. If you do qualify, you will get that automatically, but that would make you liable to pay it in the next month. That's a liability. It's a bank overdraft.
Yes.
Happy? So that could be the list of, or that would fall within the list of the trade and other payables control account as your liabilities, basically, or your current liabilities. Okay. Sure. Section C there says the purchases journal with an amount of 98,600 rand, and then we've got the purchases returns journal of 3,000 rand. Can you please stop page in your books? All right. Invoice of 700 rand was omitted by error from the purchases journal, and the interest has been charged for an overdue payment by CC Tutor with an amount of 115. Okay. Let's go further. I think it's bulletin number 5 here. It says the salary paid of 3,000 rand was analyzed to the creditors column in the cash payment journal. Okay. And the other bulletin says the purchases journal was overcosted with an amount of 900 rand. And the other one, it says with the assumption to be correct, I think I tabbed this wrongly. With an assumption to be correct, an amount of the opening balance for the creditors is 68,200 rand. Right. List of the individual creditors per payables credit with an amount of 20,000 rand, and then with a debit with an amount of 2,000 rand. Okay, and then we've got a total list of the creditors balance still recast by an amount of 1.5. The credit note number 55 for 90 rand was entered correctly in the purchases journal, but erroneously posted as a credit to the account of Zodi Limited. Okay, a check for an amount of 120 rands paid to Estate was entered into the debit side of L. Amola's account. An invoice for 1909, which had been entered in the purchases journal, was entered against the account of Dinarings Limited as 1999, and the trade payables column account amounts to 90,000 rands. Okay, so the question says, please perform your creditors control account, and then you can do the reconciliation. You can reconcile the total list of the creditors balance with the trade payables control account. But first bulletin, purchases journal, 98,000 rand. Where does it go?
Okay, it goes on the credit side.
Credit side of that. Okay, why is that?
Okay, because it increases our creditors.
The liabilities are increasing, and the liabilities increases on the credit side. Quite correct in that one. Thank you. Bulletin 2, purchase returns journal. I think the one you gave me the first solution on the first bulletin. Can you attempt this one as well, please? Is it Johanna?
Yes, it's Paulina.
Or Paulina? Yes.
Okay, since we return the purchases, it means that we're gonna enter it on the debit side.
We're gonna be entering this on the debit side. It's reducing
Yes, because it reduces our
liabilities. Thank you so much. But can you guys realize that? Can you see that the trade and other payables control account is the opposite of your receivables control account? What you do on the credit side of the debtors is what you do on the debit side of your creditors as an opposite. Make sense? What I'm trying to say is your debtors, they've got more effect on your debit side, and then your creditors, they've got more effect on your credit side. Okay. Invoice of 700 rand was omitted by error from the purchases journal. Anybody quickly? Somebody to contribute, please, Paulina. I don't want you to overtake on this one. Can somebody give me an answer on this one, please? Hello, quickly. What if I say that these would increase 98,600 rand? Would you agree with me if I can say that? Would you agree with me? My purchases journal has been omitted by mistake with an amount of 700 rand. Then what do? Are you allowed to take it back to where it belongs? Are you allowed to do that? All right, me give you an example. Okay, I'm going to go back to debtors. Okay. Let's say the opening balance of the debt. Okay, I'm going to work on this, the purchases, right? But purchases of 96,000 rand, it has been found that I'm trying to think of something. All right, it has been found that the depreciation amount of 10,000 rand has been included in the purchases amount of 98,600 rand by error. How would you record that kind of a transaction?
Okay, I think you're gonna decrease the purchases with that amount of 10,000.
Exactly. So bulletin number 3 is exactly saying the same thing, that there was an error that has been, or maybe was I supposed to say reduced or deleted, then omitted. Maybe I was supposed to say decreased or deleted, or than using the omit. Maybe it was going to make much more sense to you. Interest has been charged for an overdue payment by CC Tutor with an amount of 115. Okay, I send you the statement. You haven't paid. Then what do? I charge you the interest on that. That means that whatever that I owe you, or you owe me, in this case, it's actually with the part. It's part of the creditor's account. Right. So it means that whatever that I owe you, or you owe. Remember, we can have like the mutual agreement as both the debtors and the creditors. And I charge you the interest with an amount of, or you charge me an interest with an amount of 115. That means it increases the creditors. The creditors. So it'll go through to your credit side.
Yes.
Okay. Right, guys, this is making me worry now because your participation is quite low. I'm trying to understand on how much have you prepared yourself for the exam. And it worries me a lot. Okay, because at this point in time, you're left with 2 weeks. And immediately when I pose up questions, which you are supposed to say, me. It's what I was expecting from you. Okay, actually, you're supposed to be in an instance or a situation where you rectify me the most to say, no, there you made a mistake. How about this? Make sense?
Yes, it does.
Correct. So you're supposed to be in that. I'm worried a lot about your participation on this, I must say.
Mr. Putin.
Yes, sir.
Can you please excuse some of us? We expected a network connection, so we just can't keep up with the lecture. So please excuse some of us.
Okay, you can't keep up with the pace due to network issues.
Yes, sir.
Okay, no, I get what you're saying. But why do you say that while we're left with 20 minutes to finish up the class, or 18 minutes?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
I'm sorry about.
No, I understand your network issues, but we're now left with about 18 minutes to complete the class. And that's when you raise it. You couldn't raise that from the beginning of the class.
Sorry about that, because I've been trying and we haven't given any problems.
Is it Tawanda?
No, it's actually Tepopule.
Or Tepopule? All right, Tepopule, no, it's fine with that. But you know the recordings are available. I think it's going to be posted through to whatever the link it is, all right? And then if you need this question, you're more than welcome to email me, and then I will email it through with the solution. You got that?
Okay, that would be very helpful.
Yeah.
Yes,
I don't have your email, but you're more than welcome to send me an email, and then I'll give you this question back with the solution.
Okay, good. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, and sorry, I forgot to mention to those of you who sent me an email yesterday. I think most of you were. I think you were happy about the conduct of the class. So thank you for that. And for those that they had a few suggestions. So your suggestions are here today, all right? And I also thank you for that. Right, so let's keep up with the pace and then make sure that when we end this session by Friday, everybody else is actually happy. Okay. But this is what I expect more from you. Kick me with questions. Challenge me. Argue with me. Tell me that I'm wrong. That's what I want, actually. Okay, praise whatever that is actually challenging you at this point in time. Don't tell me on my email that, Mr. Meso, I was actually scared of raising the questions. Don't do that. Tell me now, because there's no such a thing as a stupid question. Instead, it makes you whole. Okay. Enough with my preaching now. Let's have a look at the bulletin up there, which says the salary paid of 3,000 Rand was analyzed to the creditors column in the cash payment journal. Okay. These are the kind of transactions where a lot of students are actually struggling to interpret. Okay. It's the same as transaction where it deals up with the errors. Okay. So I would struggle with this kind of transactions as well. I mean, English is not my first language, so it's normal, but you can probably fail to can understand that. Okay. Right, and the next bulletin says the purchase journal was overcasted with an amount of 900 Rand. I think Paulina or Johanna, this is your strongest line. Eh? This must be Paulina and Johanna's strongest line. Okay. So the overcast of the data, it normally goes to your credit side as part of the reduction, and then the overcast of the payables, it will normally go to your debit side as part of your reduction. Okay. Depending on which account increases where, decreases where. But since we're dealing with a liability, it says that it increases on the credit side. List of the individual creditors per trade payables later credit of the it amounts to 20,000 Rand, and then with a debit of 2,000 Rand. Okay. But here's the thing there, 20,000 Rand would come to the credit. They're telling you specifically, but it falls under your individual creditors per trade payables later credits. Okay. So it's part of your recon. So you're going to look at which one is greater than which. When you do the T account, let's say for the individual data, sorry, creditors, you'd put your 20,000 Rand in the credit, and then you put your 2,000 Rand in the minus because it's a debit. Okay, and then you minus that and get the difference to be recorded. Okay. The list of the creditors available, sorry, the list of the creditors balance was overcast by an amount of 1,500 Rand. I got a question for you. If you look at the second bulletin after the salary paid, where it says the purchases journal was overcasted by an amount of 900 Rand. But here down here, we've got a total list of creditors balance that is overcasted by 1.5. Where do you think the difference lies? Or is there a difference? Is there a difference? Anyone? Johanna, Paulina, Pule, Tepo? Sorry, some of you I haven't captured your names. Know that I'm trying to be favoritism. But where do you think, where can you notice the difference, if there is a difference? And can you background yourself with, yeah.
According to my understanding,
Yes.
they first told us that purchase journal was overcasted by 900.
Yes.
So we recorded that on the debit side.
Okay.
Right? So now they are telling us that total list of creditors balance was overcast by 1,500.
Yes.
So according to my understanding, I will say 1,500 minus 900 because I already recorded that.
Okay.
Then I will record the balance of 600 on the debit side. I'm not sure if I'm correct or wrong.
Debit side of the trade payables control account.
Yes.
Okay, that's quite a good suggestion. Right. Any take? Thank you for that. Any take? Can I just a minute, please? How can I help you?
Yes, the security does tell me to come and step also to the computer lab so that I can get help.
It's that side.
That's
The side of the side.
There is someone that can help me with my UNISA password.
Well, look for the guy called Johan. He's the one helping out the students in the computer lab.
That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks. Sorry about that. Please, the second attempt. Any second suggestions on this? Any suggestions on this? Tell you what, let me tell you this. There's a woman there who was participating when we were doing the error posted. I'm sorry to say this. I'm just trying to make some sort of an identity, but she sounded colored. Actually, to be honest, I was looking forward to hear your explanation on this one. I don't know I don't know what your name is, but I wanted you to actually can partake on that because I like the way you participate on this kind of transactions.
It was me. Her name is Lindy.
Okay. Oh, was it Lindy? I think yeah. You gave me a clue with regards to when we were doing the error part on the trade and other receivables. To be honest with you, I would like you to actually can partake on this one. Suggest what do you think? I just want you to hear what you think.
With both when you look at the overcosting of 900 and the second overcosting of 1500, we shouldn't try and process it in one transaction. An overcast, if you think about a creditor's account, which trade and other payables is,
yes,
it increases on the credit side.
Yes,
so what that tells us is that 1500 should not be on the credit side. And the 900 should also not be on the credit side. So you have to process the two transactions on the debit side to zeroize the error first. So you debit the purchases control account with the 900,
okay,
debit it with the 1500,
okay,
and that will zeroize the errors. Then you would have to correctly process the debit again.
okay. So is that where you end?
Excuse me?
So that's where your explanation.
Yes.
Tell you what, I truly like the way you view transactions in terms of the accounting. Right. And thank you so much for partaking on that. But let me tell you what the gap is, what the difference is in here. When you see the purchases journal, which has been overcosted, I mentioned this at the beginning of the session that transaction that does not affect the purchases journal goes to the debtors record. Okay. And the transaction that has not affected your journals, it means that when you remember when I said these and these of a transaction has been recorded correctly under your purchases journal or your sales journal, it means that you at that point in time you just need to forget about the journal, the trade receivables control account. Okay. Let me just tell you on how the whole thing comes up to start. When you deal with the trade receivables control account, you mostly deals with the account that initiate from the sales channel. Okay, and then what makes the sales channel is particularly when you sell goods on credit. Can you see where it starts? You sell goods on credit, eventually to so and so. So the first recording would be, okay, I put this under my sales channel. Okay, you sold goods on credit, you put that under your sales channel. The reason for that is you need to determine how many debtors do you have so that you can add up the total that goes through to your trade and other receivable controls account. Let's look at the link. The link says that, or the links is actually in this way. You sold goods on credit, you are raising debtors. That's why at the end of the day, your total amount from the sales channels goes through to your trade and other receivables control account. And then there's this channel called the purchases channel. Okay. Initially, it would start, you purchased so much on credit from this person. Okay. So your first recording will be, okay, this is my purchases channel. How much is my total at the end of the month or at the end of the period? Then what do? You move the total through to the balance brought down on the credit side of your trade and other payables control account. Can you realize the movement? Where it starts, where it ends, and where it goes. Where it does start, where is it going to be recorded? Where is it going to end? If you can understand that kind of a chain, then obviously you will be sorted. But here is the thing. They say that the purchases journal was overcosted by an amount of 900 rand. So entirely you need to deal with what's called the purchases journal. Okay? And obviously when you've dealt with the purchases journal is, okay, let's say you've got the list of your suppliers and everything and stuff like that. Under The purchases journal there, you're going to show this as a deduction out of whatever that we had initially. Okay, then you adjust that, you move it to the T account for the trade and other payables control account. Okay, and then let's look at this one where it says the total list of the creditors balance was overcasted by an amount of 1,500 rand. That's where the recon part would come into the picture. Listen, my purchases journal is complete, it's okay. The problem is with the list of the debtors. Okay, let me advise you on that. Every time when you do your T accounts on the trade and other receivables and the payables, please make sure you read your remarks. Don't just do questions and move away. Understand the remarks, because the remarks, they've got bulletins, or they're numbered in a way that whatever that has been recorded importantly without you understanding it, they elaborate their explanation on that. You don't need to go to the book. You just have to go to the study guide. It's there at the bottom of each and every question. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you're dealing with the recon, make sure that you understand that transactions that deals with the individuals, they affect your recon. And then when you are dealing with the trade and other payables with the controls account, make sure you understand, okay, there I'm dealing with the channels. If it's an adjustment that requires the channel, then obviously you need to adjust that under your controls account. Okay, but at the end of the day, what I'm trying to say here is this transaction would affect your recon, but we'll see that on the solutions and how was it structured. Credit note number 55 for 90 Rand was entered correctly in the purchases journal. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Can you see that this has been recorded correctly in the purchases journal? So when you do the control payables, you don't have to think about this, because already under the purchases journal, it has been recorded. I don't know if I'm making sense. It's exactly what I was explaining previously when I was dealing with the over custom total list of creditors for 1.5. Does it make sense?
Yes, it does.
Does it make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So they're telling me that my credit note number 55, the credit note for number 55 Rand, sorry, 55 for 90 Rand was entered correctly in the purchases journal. Listen, if this was not entered correctly in the purchases journal, I was going to record it under the payables control account. But it has been recorded. It means I have to pass that stage. I don't have to deal with it. Recording it, it will be double recording it. So you'll be adjusting the adjustable. Happy? Let's have a look at the check for an amount of 120 paid to Stain was entered on the debit side of El Lamola's account. Okay. Then that means we need to rectify the debit side of Stain. Okay. We put it to the wrong account, which is Lamola's account, right? The second last bulletin says an invoice for 1909, which has been entered in the purchases journal, was entered against the account of Dinaris Limited as 1999. Okay, this is one of the errors that has to be adjusted as well. Let's have a look at the trade payables column account. So trade payables control column account. Normally you'd have this column when you do your purchases journal. Okay, so under your purchase journal, you're going to have this column. And what else of the column would you have there? This purchases end. Please remind me quickly. It should be purchases and creditors, right? It should be purchases and creditors. Okay, let's quickly look at the solution on how did they record that. Okay, so you've got the purchases journal of 3,000 Rand. Let's look at where does it come from. Okay, let's look at the balance brought down, 68,200 Rand. Okay, 68,200 Rand. Can you see that? My opening balance for the creditors is 68,000 Rand. It's bulletin number 3 on the second page. Can you see where I'm highlighting? Can you see where I'm highlighting, people?
Yes.
Right. Cool, then. I'm going to move to the next one. And then we've got the purchases with an amount of 41,655. Let's look, where does it come from? Here, I think it's somewhere here. Where did I have this amount of money? Purchases of 41,655. Okay, sorry, maybe it's my error on myself, but I'll come back to that one. So can you see the error omitted? I brought it back to the credit side of 700 rand simply because I made an error. I have to take it back. It should be added to the 68,200 rand. Right?
Yeah.
Right. So there's a salary of 3,000 rand. Sorry. So there's a salary of 300,000 rand, sorry, 300 rand that has to be recorded on the credit side there because it will increase our suppliers and it has been analyzed under our creditors. But remember when I said that I've charged you an amount of 115 for not paying or for not paying the account on time. There it is. Increase your statement of account balance with an amount of 115 is the interest. Okay, we're all aware of that. Take a look in instances where you are a debt tied for Shein. So normally when you skip your payments, they will tell you that you missed this installment and then we've charged you the interest of this. Okay. But purchases journal with an amount of 3,000 rand, I think it should be somewhere. Okay, it's here. What is the returns? Can you see that? Purchases returns. Somebody told me, gave me quite a great explanation to say that it should decreases the purchases on the debit side, which is quite correct. And the overcast as well, it should come to the debit side simply because we need to make the balance brought down and the purchases up to a standstill, the correct one. Okay, bank, they paid me, then I have to reduce the creditors with an amount of 9,000 rand. That's why you see it on the debit side. Sorry, I'm worried about this 46,165. Just want to find out where did I get it. What is 6,000? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let's have a look at 96. 98,600 rand. Sorry, actually, I was trying to make some recon with this one. This amount of 48,000, I think I forgot to change it. 41,655, it's supposed to be here. Basically. You see the 98,600 rand. That's where the 40, I think I forgot to change it. Sorry about 41,655. It's there. And then your balance carry down is 19,770. Okay, first we going to open it with it here. Can you see my balance brought down is 19,770. Okay, the recon, the total list of the creditors there we had. The recon is actually exactly the same as for the debtors. So total list of the creditors there, I took, you remember when I said 20,000 rand on the credit and then 2,000 rand on the debit. So minus that to give me the net total list of the creditors of 18,000 rand. And then you remember that overcosting, the 1.5. It's for the list of debtors. It's actually not their controls. That's why you see it under record. Right, so the error correction, it will apply the same principle under your creditors. And the error correction of 1999 minus 901. This is part of the recording, so we reconcile with an amount of 90 rand. Okay, that gives us to the balance of the trade payables control account of 19,770. Okay, so And that would bring us to the end of today's session. Right, is there anything else that you want to understand? Okay, let me be honest with you first. This kind of questions, they are highly likely to come into the exam, whether you like it or not. So you need to be over prepared for them. Don't say I didn't give you tips. Okay, so my previous students, they know I normally give them my own scope, kind of like, and I tell them what to expect in the exam, but I always advise them to do everything. Right? Don't say I said you scored. I told you to do everything, but you need to be strategic enough to can face up questions in the exam. Do you know how difficult the multiple choice questions are? So you need to be, yes. Right. Okay. This brings us to the end of the questions. Let me give you an idea of what is going to come up tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be the same time at 10 up until 12 o'clock. That's how long the session is going to be. And this is what is going to come up into the tomorrow session. Sorry, somebody's making noise there. Hello, can you put yourself on mute, please? Thank you. Right. What's going to come up tomorrow is we're going to deal with VAT input and VAT output. And we're going to elaborate more on the journals, which include the VAT. Okay. So we're going to treat the input and the VAT, and then we're going to explain the VAT output and the VAT input, along with the key accounts on those. And we're going to do, I would see if I would come up with some multiple choice questions. And again, maybe I might pick one of the assignments from the previous years in terms of, because it has multiple choice questions, and then we'll deal with that. Okay. But the most important thing mainly would be we're going to be dealing with VAT input and output, and the theory around the recordings of the journals and your input and output on the journals as well. Okay. Thursday's scopes, will include your bank reconciliation statement. And then Friday, that's where we're going to end the journey, you and I. And then we'll end things with topic E, incomplete records, your membership fees accounts, entrance fee, your receipts and payment statements, and the income and expenditures, as well as your trade accounts and the special accounts. Okay, so based on that topic, I would look as to normally what would come into the exam. So what is going to be examined and what is not going to be, if there's any. And then I'll tell you if there's any, and if there's no, then it means that we have to do everything all together. Anything else from your side? I have to say goodbye, unfortunately.
It's Johanna here for TV.
Yes, Johanna.
Can you please share your email address?
Again.
Please.
Okay. You can see where I'm writing, right? Can you see my page?
Yes.
No, I'll increase the size, don't worry about that. Is it big enough? Is it big enough?
Yes, it is.
All right. Any questions from anybody? Any questions? Right. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a lovely day further. Please go and make sure that you work on your things. Do your workings. Shoot me with questions tomorrow. All right, sharp guys.
Mr. Uti, just a moment.
Oh, sure.
Sorry. Can you please just share your email address one more time?
Okay. Can you see it? Is it clear?
Not yet.
Can you see where I'm typing? Look at your bottom left.
Yeah, I can see it now.
Can you see it?
Yeah, I can see it now.
Yeah, it's red Lacoste 1920 at live.co.uk. Right. Anything else?
Yeah, thank you.
Cheers, guys. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a lovely day further. We'll talk tomorrow. Né?
Sure.
Yeah, please kill me with questions tomorrow. I'm awaiting. Cheers.
Thank you, Putin.
All right. Cheers, everybody.
All right.
I live here. No?
Yeah, you leave there. Just go here. Just want to stop this recording. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just stop.
Okay.